Hi, I'm Mike Simons, Director of Employee Communications for the Office of Public Affairs. Today I have TSA Administrator John Pistole. Thank you for joining me.
Sure, Mike.
Just thinking back on 2012, what are some of the things that kind of strike you about the year?
Well, I think what I just came from is a good way to introduce that, Mike, because I just came from the Pan Am 103 memorial service. Today is the 24th anniversary of the downing of Pan Am 103, of course 270 souls lost. And just being at that service, speaking along with the Attorney General, the Deputy National Security Advisor, the FBI Director, it was just a good reminder of the reason we do the things we do. And then coming back, it's just a couple miles here from TSA headquarters, coming back by the Pentagon, and just that graphic reminder about what terrorists can do when they really set their minds and hearts on it, and how vigilant we must be. So as I look back at 2012, I think we've made great progress in several ways. One is the implementation and expansion of our risk-based security initiatives, so the intelligence-driven initiatives that allow us to move away from that one-size-fits-all construct. And so also this week, we had the rollout of the 35th TSA PreCheck Airport, Orange County John Wayne Airport outside Los Angeles. And we just also had this week our 5 millionth person go through TSA PreCheck. So as we move away from that one-size-fits-all and focus on the intelligence that we have, the pre-screening that we can do, it just helps us do our job as we try to find that 1 in a billion terrorists who may be hiding, and we can reduce the size of that haystack, that needle in the haystack, and really just focus on those that we know the least about, or of course those who are on the terrorist watch list, and those selectees who are traveling, and we need to make sure we're getting that right. I think also the expansion with DOD, the active duty personnel. We're in 6 airports now where we have the common access card readers, and just in the 3-day period before Christmas, we're expecting to have nearly 10,000 active duty military just in Atlanta Hartsfield Airport go through PreCheck screening, because again they're part of this. We look to expand that nationwide through a system in 2013. So the whole risk-based security initiative, the full rollout of the 75 and older, the 12 and under, certain members of the intelligence community, other groups of people that have allowed us to move away. That's one big area. Another is the collective bargaining agreement that we signed earlier just this past month, and the opportunities for the workforce to be heard in a new and meaningful way. So I'm anticipating, looking forward to the engagement with AFG as we can find ways to provide the best possible workforce to the traveling public, so we can provide the most effective security in the most professional way, an efficient way. And so look forward to this historic agreement as a way of helping us again in the professionalization of everything we do. Another area is just the creation of the TSA Academy, where we have opportunities to have TSA employees receive enhanced training, additional training than what they've had previously. And so we've had nearly 500 supervisors go through thus far, and the rest of the supervisors will go through in 2013, as we then expand that to other training opportunities. That's of course at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia. And it's just a great opportunity for us to really try to as we try to become a high-performing organization. I think training is one of those key enablers that help us do that. So it's been a very good year, 2012, as we have continued to evolve into really a counterterrorism agency. That's why we're created, to make sure terrorists don't take their acts to the airways here in the U.S. And as we continue that focus on all those opportunities we have to provide the most effective security, the most efficient way.
So picking up on the training, the academy that you were talking about at the supervisory level, what do you see the impact is going to be on everyone at the airport?
Well, we started with supervisors because of the critical role I think that supervisors play in in translating, interpreting the directives and the SOP changes from headquarters to what that means for the people on the front lines doing the job day in and day out, whether in passenger or cargo or wherever it may be, checked bags. And also they have that responsibility of hearing and listening to the TSOs to say, well, here's our issues and this doesn't make sense, or, well, can you help me with that? And so the 2-week training that supervisors go through include things such as leadership training, how to give positive feedback and constructive criticism to the workforce. In my town halls around the country, I've heard that most TSOs want additional feedback from their supervisors. So this 2-week training helps the supervisors understand the importance of that, and then how to do things involving RBS, the whole risk-based security initiative. How do we help the entire workforce understand and implement those changes in a meaningful way? So I think this gives us an opportunity again to have better understanding, and as we move forward with all these changes, change can be hard at times, but the better communication we have and the better feedback from everybody at all levels, the better off we'll be.
Thank you. Going back to risk-based security and looking at 2013, so you mentioned 35 airports now have TSA PreCheck, and also mentioned the active members. What other initiatives might we be looking at, and how is risk-based security really impacting everyone across all of the airports?
There are several initiatives that we're looking for in 2013, Mike, and it's things such as some pilot efforts that we're doing in Indianapolis and Tampa right now on what we call managed inclusion, where we can make sure that the TSA PreCheck lane or lanes are being fully utilized, because frankly most of them are not being fully utilized during the checkpoint hours. They're busy during the morning bank, afternoon perhaps, during the rush hours, if you will. So what we've done in Indianapolis and Tampa is working with BDOs and passenger screening canines is to identify people in the regular queues and then select them. It may be on a random basis, but it's probably not random, to have them go through PreCheck. And so, for example, the day before Thanksgiving in Indianapolis, instead of the less than 5% of the traveling public through one of the 2 checkpoints that we have there, we actually had 31% of the passengers go through PreCheck through what we call managed inclusion. So we look at expanding that and seeing are there other opportunities to do additional screening, real-time screening and decision making at the checkpoint, even if there's not a passenger screening canine involved. So we are limited in terms of the number of PSCs that we have. So are there other opportunities? So that's one thing. Another thing is we're looking at engaging with private entities that might want to do vetting for us. So we will have global entry as an opportunity for people to sign up and pay $100 for 5 years, $20 a year, so they can be expedited back in the country if they're traveling outside the country, but also receive the TSA PreCheck benefits. But then looking at the opportunities that we can have where they may go through a different type of experience in a couple of ways. One is through if they just want to pay a private company that we would contract with, that would vet to our criteria. They would assess, here are the exact things we want to know about a person. They would pay the fee to that private company, and then the company would tell us yes or no, that person is somebody that would qualify under our criteria. We'd still have the final say, of course, on that, but it's a way of expanding the PreCheck population that goes beyond just a government program. And so we'll be looking at some things early in 2013 that give us some opportunities. There's some companies out there that want to do this, we know of. So we will look at them, probably do some pilot testing of that, perhaps spring or summertime, maybe going into the fall. And I'm hopeful by the end of 2013 we will have people going to TSA PreCheck who have been vetted through this one or more private companies. Don't know who that would be, but whoever that would be. So that's one thing. And then we're also looking at what we may call global entry light. So what we found is in the last several months, there's more and more people who are wanting to sign up for global entry, but they don't even have a passport, perhaps, which is required for global entry, or they may have one, but they don't travel much internationally. They want the TSA PreCheck benefits. In fact, nearly 40%, slightly over 40% of the people in the last few months have signed up and said they want just the pre-check benefits. So can we work? So we're working on something to create a system that would be a global entry light. So there's a number of initiatives that we are focused on with the whole idea of let's expand that population. If we look at the number of travelers, we have 640 million people who go through our screening every year, 450 airports. Well, perhaps as many as 40% of those, so high 200 millions, maybe even closing on 300 million, are frequent travelers. So it's not like there's 640 unique travelers. 250 to 300 million of those are the same people time and time again.
Right.
So how can we identify those and make sure they're part of this known trusted population will really help us provide the most effective security in the most efficient way.
So that kind of gets me to a topic, kind of switching topics a little bit, gets us right to the folks at the checkpoint, our workforce on the front lines. There have been times in the media where there have been not so good stories that have come up where we have gotten banged up a little bit by media and bloggers. And not that they're the same thing, but there's also been the results of the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey. And so I'm wondering, do you see a connection as far as morale? Can you talk about a little bit about employee morale and kind of your take on the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey?
Well, sure. And so I think, let me say first that the vast majority of our employees are hardworking professionals with integrity. And that's the three benchmarks that I think every TSA employee should be known by. And so when somebody does not live up to those standards, then that hurts all of us in terms of reputation, professionalism. And so I think as we work to improve the image of TSA, and we have a very intentional effort to do that, both in each airport, but here at headquarters, how can we do that? It really involves each one of us taking responsibility to project that professional image, to show that we're hard workers with integrity. So that being said, I think morale improves as passengers engage with us differently, and outside groups, whether airlines, airports, trade associations, whoever it may be, Congress, as they see a different TSA, particularly as we expand the RBS and pre-check opportunities, I think we win people over, perhaps one at a time, because when somebody goes through pre-check, they're very happy. They're pleased. I talked to one individual, a gentleman who went through pre-check for the first time in Orange County this week, and asked him how his experience was. He had a one-word response: perfect. It's not too often that TSA is described in those terms, and then a woman went through and her experience, she was just so pleased to be able to keep her shoes on. And so little things like that, I think each opportunity, each passenger is an opportunity for us to enhance the image of TSA, which I think has an effect of improving morale. Now, there's other things such as, boy, it sure be nice to be able to give everybody a pay raise. Obviously, we're under, every federal employee is under a pay freeze, obviously, and don't know what's going to happen with the 2013 budget discussions and all that. It's up in the air right now as we're taping this. But that being said, there's a lot of things that we can do just in terms of employee recognition and just people taking pride in their work, which again has a huge impact as we go back to the reason for our existence and our national security mission, as we make sure we're doing everything we can to protect the traveling public day in, day out, those 1.7, 1.8 million people on average every day that we're protecting and making sure they can get home safely to their loved ones or to their work.
So you had mentioned Congress a couple times there. So you and other members of TSA senior leadership team go up to Congress periodically. Talk a little bit about the dynamic there. What's that like? Well,
we have some very strong supporters in Congress, and we also have our critics, some of whom their criticism is fair, whatever the issue may be. Some who just don't have the facts right or don't care to have the facts right, frankly. And so we deal with all of them because we want to make sure that we are presenting the clearest, most timely information to say who we are, what we're doing, and why we're doing it. And for those who think that the threat has abated since 9/11, we need to remind them that the threats are real and the stakes are high, and we need to get it right. And so part of my job as administrator is to be an advocate with all those on the Hill, in the administration with OMB, who sets our budget, and all those advocacy groups and associations that have some impact. Clearly we impact them and their constituents. But as it relates to Congress, I think overall when you separate all the rhetoric, there's still strong support for what the men and women of TSA do every day. And I think there's a not only a recognition but a respect by most members of saying, yes, we know you have a tough job. Thank you for what you're doing to keep us safe.
So I know that you also meet with people who are global leaders in the intelligence community, law enforcement community, both overseas and here in the United States. So can you talk a little bit about those meetings and what that means?
Well, so that's, I guess, one of the benefits of having come from the FBI after almost 27 years there and working in national security there. There's a lot of great, rich resources around the world that we can tap into, avail ourselves to, that I'm aware of from that job, and which we do. So as I welcome leaders, counterparts from around the world here at TSA headquarters, or as I visit them, we have an opportunity to exchange best practices and to make sure that we all understand and appreciate the interdependencies that we have, that we're only as good as the weakest link in the chain, if you will, both for passenger and cargo. As we've seen, terrorists are trying to attack us both in passenger and in cargo. So how can we best work together? And there's some great opportunities that we have in working both bilaterally with one country or multilaterally, such as the European Union, the 27 countries there. And so we're making good progress in how we can harmonize security standards so there's a better customer experience. So for example, somebody may be traveling from Europe to the US with a 2.5-inch knife right now. Well, we, according to our policy, we're not going to allow that to go back. So liquid aerosol gel is another example where the European Parliament has passed a law that would allow LAGs to travel more freely. So we're working, again, bilaterally and multilaterally to say, how can we harmonize, how can we establish the best possible security in a collaborative fashion.
Is there anything that you want to say, anything you want to say directly to employees?
I have a great appreciation for what the men and women of TSA do every day. The more I have seen people in action, the more conversations I've had in town halls around the country, from Fairbanks to Miami, from Bangor to LAX. I just have a great appreciation for the challenges that they deal with every day, and sometimes a thankless job that it is, because some people just do not appreciate what we're doing, and our critics can be vocal sometimes. The good stories, for example, we just had over 775 of our employees from over 200 airports go to New York to help out FEMA and others on the Hurricane Sandy efforts. I went to visit a number of those folks, met with several hundred, had dinner on the ship where many of them were staying, and heard some really compelling stories about the great work that we're doing helping other people. Well, that's what we do every day around the country. We help other people get from point A to point B safely. So as we do that, there's just I just have a great appreciation for our folks who do that day in, day out. And I just really would want to say thank you to every person who is out there for their hard work, for their professionalism, for their integrity, and for the ability to make a difference in so many people's lives day in and day out, and for the sacrifices they make to do the job as part of this great organization that we are, and as we continue to become an even greater organization. So I just heartfelt thanks.
Thank you very much.
Mike, you bet.